Most of our islands are about 2 meters above sea level, and some of the parts of the island are so thin that you could like throw a rock from the ocean side to the lagoon side. Seeing the actual projections of how the sea level rise is projected to look like in like 10 years time if we continue on the path shows basically one of the biggest urban centers in Madro, where my home is, just submerged. People may think that our islands are small and void of life and, insignificant and far away, but we're really not. We have such powerful voices, and that gives me so much hope and strength knowing that we speak from truth, from experience, and our culture, community, our faith. Those are our tools for resilience.
Hello, welcome to Earth Talk, the podcast for people and the planet. A space where we talk about global challenges from different perspectives, whilst we try to focus on solutions and reasons to be hopeful in times like these. I'm Leo Holldack, and thank you for tuning in. Hello, welcome to today's episode. Today our dear guest is Bedi Racule, as she's from the Pacific. Thank you so much for taking your time to be here. And first, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's been a tiring past few days at COP, but I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So for the people who are right now listening, they might not know you. So do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit that we get like an idea who you are?
Sure. I'm Bedi Racule. I'm from the Marshall Islands and the Federated States of Micronesia, 2 countries in the Pacific region. And I work as an ecumenical enabler for climate justice at the Pacific Conference of Churches.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So the people right now maybe listening, they've never been to the Marshall Islands. Can you maybe like give us like a small tour around like your island, also like the surrounding? How does it maybe like looks like? Maybe how does it like? And when you listen, how does it sound? Like maybe how does it taste? I don't know. So how is the place?
Oh my gosh, I miss home so much. It's so beautiful. We are an atoll nation, so we have small coral islands that have no mountains. They're basically like these rings in the ocean, like the peaks of mountains poking out of the ocean. Mm-hmm. There's a big lagoon in the middle, and some of the parts of the island are so thin that you could like throw a rock from the ocean side to the lagoon side. And
wow.
We have 29 atolls and 5 islands, and I come from a place called Madro. Most of our islands are about 2 meters above sea level, so they're called low-lying coral atolls. And they have beautiful white beaches. Our main food is fish. We are ocean people. We've been traveling the ocean for thousands of years with incredible canoe culture, navigational culture, and also breadfruit. We love breadfruit and coconut. Anything in sweet coconut milk with fish is the best.
Yeah. Beautiful. And can you maybe like explain us a little bit like how are the people there? Like how do people live there? Maybe in which way are you guys living there?
Marshallese people, one of the like defining traits is generosity. I think when you go there, you will be welcomed very, very hospitably. And I feel like it's because we live in such abundance in the island. Like we know that things will never run out because the earth always provides, materials for weaving so that women can make their livelihood, and fishes for food and sustenance. So yeah, there's just so much giving in Marshall Islands, and it's just a vibrant people.
Yeah. And you tell me about like the culture about like canoeing, that this is really like something really specific about the Marshall Islands. Can you maybe tell us a little bit like how maybe also was the life at the Marshall Islands maybe a couple of 100 years ago, like also how did it maybe change to now?
Yeah, so we have like this incredible navigation culture because there are so many, like 1,000 little islets scattered all over our exclusive economic zone. So we are called, we like to call ourselves a large ocean state. And
Yeah.
pretty much every island speaks the same language. And that's just like shows that we've been traveling throughout the islands and navigating the ocean. We have these traditional maps made out of natural materials, legends and stories based on canoeing and navigation. And one of our old traditions is for a young man, like as a coming of age ceremony, would travel out on his own, voyage out on his own, and then bring back something from another island back home. And that's just like a passage of rites for our young men to show that they can traverse the oceans, they can master the ocean and be able to use that skill to provide for their families.
And just that I have like understanding of that, because really this is like really far away from my own reality, to be quite serious. Are you guys like sailing or like the traditional way, or because you said it's canoeing, so it's like properly like rowing with like with a paddle, or like how does it
Yeah,
work?
it's like sails. It's woven mat sails from very fine materials. And they are the wayfinders use the stars, the currents. We have like our traditional names for all of the canoe parts, so that, it's really sailing, and it's actually still being practiced today. It's traditional navigation. We have some of our wayfinders here at COP who are talking about sustainable sea transport.
Wow.
Sharing how they're kind of reviving this culture as a way to also empower young people in the community, especially young men, to give them a sense of purpose, of community, and as a tool for like resilience.
That sounds like a really like a place I would like to visit, like seriously.
You should come. Yeah.
Wow. So as we're now talking in this podcast as well a little bit about the reasons why we're here, as we're now in COP28 in Dubai, we're here because the emerging climate crisis. So maybe I can imagine this is also impacting vastly your home. So can you maybe tell us a little bit like how your home maybe changed, maybe in your life, what you like witnessed maybe when you were like a younger child running around like at the sand, at the beaches, and towards now?
Yeah, so I've grown up away from home for a little part of my life. For a big part of my life, I moved to Hawaii so that my family could have better healthcare services and, economic opportunities. And every time I go back, it's like the beaches get smaller and smaller. And my family has a little bit of land on the coast, and my uncle's house is there. And when we go to visit, it's like all of the trees that are kind of lined up on the shore, their roots are just exposed.
Yeah.
As opposed to before when it was just nice and far beach. And we really see right in front of our eyes how the sea is encroaching up onto the land. And I take my children out to play, and it's just like so much roots and debris. It's just like very different from when I grew up. But seeing the actual projections of how the sea level rise is projected to look like in like 10 years time if we continue on the path, shows basically one of the biggest urban centers in Madrid, where my home is, just submerged underwater.
Really, next 10 years.
Yeah, if there are projections, like if we are continuing on, not mitigating climate change, which is so heartbreaking. And I work in a regional organization. So traveling throughout the Pacific, I've seen people, communities that have been actually relocated.
Yeah.
The pain that they felt to be moved from home is indescribable. There was a chief in Fiji that we went to visit from a village called Vunidongolo. It's one of the first communities in the world to have like a planned relocation. And so the government moved their entire village. And even after 7 years, he couldn't talk about the day that they left. Just like not even a few kilometers away, just up into the mountains. But that place, that was their home. And the old women, they slept in their old houses for like 6 days. They refused to come back. They wanted to stay and die there. All of their ancestors' graves were there. And just to see this man so vulnerable, I mean, he really broke my heart. So the reality of, what it's like to relocate is not what people think. I come to like this beautiful city and I just imagine, what if you had to relocate like, or like those beautiful cities in Europe.
Yeah.
Been to Europe where they have like so much culture and heritage and history. And it's like, that's what it feels like for us, just uprooting that. Even though it doesn't seem like much, there's like a really huge spiritual and cultural history and connection that we have to these pieces of land, our homes.
Yeah, I totally understand. And like, it's always so difficult for me, like to hear those stories. And don't get me wrong, like I don't want to pity myself because I'm in such a privileged position. But like I'm listening like throughout this podcast to so many people who are like facing so severe consequences. I'm literally so sorry for what is happening. And as also like I know I want to navigate the space in a respectful way, because like the people from the global north, so people from my country and like other people around me, of course not like me directly, but like my ancestors are in a big part responsible for the relocation now. So I'm, on my behalf, I'm just really sorry that you guys are witnessing that and this is happening to you. And is there like a way that you feel like more comfortable talking about those things, or can we like keep on going to talk about those things?
Sure.
Before we dive in a bit about also your journey, like being here now, maybe you just still like mentioned that the people in your islands, they have like a really, really distinctive connection to their land. As you said, it's like so difficult for them to relocate. In which way is maybe their perspective about their home country maybe also a little bit different than the people living in the global north?
For us in the Pacific, we are like, whenever we introduce ourselves, our identity is like tied to our land. And so, for example, people from Bikini Atoll, which I'm sure you've heard of, they have had nuclear tests, and their island is inhabitable for thousands of years now. They've been relocated to different places and even migrated to the US. And if you meet someone from there, they'll still say, "Oh, I'm from Bikini. Like I'm a Bikini Islander," despite never even having stepped foot on there, the new generation.
Yeah.
But our identities and cultures are so rooted in land. They inform who we are, what our purpose, our role, the way we move throughout the world. In many Pacific countries, when you first arrive as a visitor, you have to acknowledge, you have to sit with the people and acknowledge, okay, I'm here in your land. You bring gifts and you acknowledge like, these are your ancestral lands. There are spirits here. There are ancestors here that even if I am free to move, maybe, they won't allow me to. And so we have to create that harmony before you move freely into the land. And in Fiji, it's called a sevu sevu. In other cultures, they have their way to move, but you kind of have to just be respectful of the sacredness of the land and
course.
what's in there. And I remember like being a young girl in the island of Pohnpei, where my dad's from, and there's this sacred ruins. They're like 1-ton basalt rocks that were created into a city. It's called Nanmatol, and scientists don't understand how these like people built it. But every time we go there and we like laugh, and our friends are like, "Shh, quiet, shh, like stop acting up. Like this is not the place to act up. Like you don't know what like powerful ancestors or spirits are here. The customs that they have, they're so strong that even when they're gone, you have to make sure that you're moving with respect for them and for the land." So yeah, I think it's really hard to explain, but it's just about that relationship with community, with ancestors, with land. It's all together.
Okay, I understand, and thank you so much for sharing that, as this is like really like a different way, I feel, like how we understand ourselves and also how we introduce ourselves. Because I think I never went to a place and say like, hey, I'm from that specific area of, I don't know, Germany, for instance, or whatever. Of course, you say like where you're from, but still, I don't really like identify so strongly maybe with that, like maybe as you are, or like the people around you from your community. So the projections you are now, you spoke about, are now really, really, really dramatic, and I think it's hard to comprehend like how difficult this time right now maybe for your community is. But maybe you can maybe share your personal story a little bit, how you got involved somehow in being in such a place like the COP, like somehow I guess you are involved in the climate movement, maybe I could like so call it. Of course, I think the reasons are quite clear, but maybe we can still like maybe share maybe like one moment which made you like say, hey, that's really like now I want to do something, or I don't know, like some other reasons which led up that you know that you're now sitting here.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I feel like I never planned to be here. It wasn't in my plan to be like a climate change, work in the environment. I was studying development, and I got involved with a student movement with some Marshallese young people that were trying to raise awareness for nuclear justice. And because we've had so many nuclear bombs in the Pacific, 315 nuclear bombs.
315.
Yeah, no nuclear bombs, we say, because we don't even have all of the documents to know, what the bombs were, what the yields were. But the yields were like, just in Marshall Islands alone, about 7,000 Hiroshima bombs.
Wow.
And so every year we raise awareness for this issue. I started to learn more about it and become really inspired by one of our late and great activists. Her name was Darlene Keju. She went out into the world and she spoke about what's happening in our country. And then I needed a job. And so I kind of found myself in the Pacific Conference of Churches at the Climate Justice Program, tasked to focus both on nuclear and climate issues. And I found so many more connections that link the two together, just on colonization. Our islands are kind of being used as a playground for weapons, war, and now we are paying the cost for the destruction and pollution of our earth as frontline peoples. So when I meet other young Pacific people out here at COP, we're really not here to like look around and, see what's happening. We bring with us experiences. We bring with us this necessity to fight. Pacific climate leaders are, in my opinion, they're not doing this for their own glory or recognition or credentials. It's really out of necessity. Like, we have no other choice. So that's why I say I didn't really choose to be here. I just kind of had no choice but to come and use my experience, knowledge to speak up about what's happening.
I totally understand. And you just now mentioned like more the nuclear testing. Maybe right now, the people right now listening, they actually don't know what happened. Before we maybe move on to like the next topic, maybe you can like share what happened actually, because literally like I think so many people don't know. And also I know too little about that.
Yeah, it's a long history I could go on, because there was testing in Kiribati, there was testing in Maohinui, which you might know as Tahiti. You know, people see this like beautiful picture of these pristine islands, not knowing that they were playgrounds for mass destruction. And
what time, like, they were like understanding?
In 1946, 1 year after the Hiroshima bomb and Nagasaki bombs, U.S. began testing in the Marshall Islands. And the testing was done by the U.S., the UK, and France throughout the Pacific. And it went on until 1996, which shocked me to learn, because I was born. I didn't know that I was living in the Pacific during a nuclear age.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest bomb on Bikini Atoll is called Castle Bravo. It's the one we commemorate for nuclear victims every year. It was approximately 1,000 times the yield of the Bikini and Nagasaki bombs. And the people tried to petition for, the testing to stop, and the UN was kind of complicit and allowed it to go on, saying if it's safe, and as long as the people are taken care of. But that was really not the case. So and then there was declassified documents that were released later, years later, that show that the U.S. Deliberately left people in the way of the bombs, in the way of the fallout, to, quote, test the impacts of radiation on human beings. So this is just like the tip of the iceberg of the injustices that were done during this period. And something that we're still trying to raise awareness for, because there aren't any documents about the Kiribati people or the Maohinui people or the Australian people or even the service workers from all over the Pacific that went there. But an incredible thing about the testing is the resilience that was created. That was shown by the Pacific people who rallied together to stop the testing. And they created what was called the Nuclear Free and Independent Pacific Movement, which was sort of like the first form of regional solidarity within our region that resulted in so many like regional organizations like the Pacific Islands Forum, where leaders started working together to protect the region.
Yeah. But it's crazy to think about. Like, this is so crazy. And also, like, out of my perspective, it's so hard to comprehend that, like, literally, like, some people are going to one of the most beautiful places on the earth, I guess, and they just think like, oh yeah, let's drop a bomb here. Like, it's crazy. Okay, but like, so you got like involved in this kind of movement, like maybe the nuclear testing was now like really like a big reason for that. And how did your journey continue?
Yeah, well, there's so many aspects of the journey, trying to link these issues with climate change.
Yeah.
I found that I've learned that there's still 12,500 nuclear warheads in existence, and a small, what they call tiny nuclear war can exacerbate climate change. And it is a really big humanitarian crisis that's sort of linked to the climate crisis, because it's just an example of our world making future generations pay for their decisions. Climate change and nuclear justice. We say in the Marshall Islands, these are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So it's a really big thing for all of our people and our leaders. But another aspect of my journey is the faith and the faith-based organizations that I've been working with.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I was able to come to COP, through the Pacific Conference of Churches, working with them. and our generous faith-based partners from all over the world. This year is the first time that there is a faith pavilion at COP. And I'm so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to represent my people in this space, because we need our voices to be, in every aspect of discussions. And if we weren't there, then who will talk about us, represent us in the space, share what's happening in our region?
Totally. And as you know, just told me about the representation of your people, like in a space like here. How do you perceive the situation? Like, are kind of like so-called world leaders listening to the cause of you, or also maybe like in a historical context? Did the people
Yeah.
seriously like listen to like the people from the Pacific Islands?
Well, being here kind of forced me to understand, this context, the history. And I was actually really amazed at how powerful Pacific voices have been throughout the process at COP. We all in Marshall Islands know about the Honorable Tony DeBrum, who convened the High Ambition Coalition, which pushed for the Paris Agreement. They were the ones that were like, we need 1.5 to stay alive. And I was so proud of that. We're always so proud of that. But then I learned that the discussions on loss and damage first began in Vanuatu, which is a Pacific Island country. And I first heard loss and damage being mentioned in Tuvalu by a young minister. And now Tuvalu and Vanuatu are championing the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. So people may think that our islands are small and void of life and, insignificant and far away, but we're really not. We have such powerful voices, and that gives me so much hope and strength, knowing that, we come here and we don't need like all this technical political knowledge. We speak from truth, from experience, and our culture, community, our faith, those are our tools for resilience.
Totally. And that's like really incredible when you think about that fact that he was like championing so much or influencing so much that we're not talking about everywhere about the Paris Agreement, like this is like one of the biggest buzzwords we have somehow here. That's crazy. And also what you were just like mentioning at the last, that you are talking or speaking out of truth and not like having this weird really formal jargon. Like I can confirm that so much. Yesterday I was at a protest where I was also approaching you, so the people right now listening, that they know how I got to know you. Like you guys were doing yesterday like a protest, and then maybe you can also explain what you guys did, because I think it's called a dance, right, somehow, and that was like. Or maybe you might explain what you guys did so that we understand that.
Oh my gosh, the young people in the Pacific are just so incredible. Like they are very, passionate, organized, vibrant, and everywhere they go, they bring that energy, that high energy. So the event yesterday was a walk-in and demonstration about powering up renewables and phasing down fossil fuels. And so they had this beautiful art piece, dances from beautiful Samoan ladies, Tuvalu, Kiribati. And that's just a demonstration of like our solidarity and our joy. And I remember talking to one of the reporters there that was saying, how do you bring your culture to COP? And if you walk around COP, you'll see all these Pacific Islanders with like these bright bula shirts, these bright flowers and, dresses. And when I look at them, it just reminds me of home. Like I'm looking at the coral reef and the flowers and the vibrant, land and ocean. And that's just like a reminder of why we do this. And I also really appreciate the beautiful landscape in Dubai. The desert just has this like rejuvenating spirit. And I can kind of see it in the people. It's like people, you might not know it, but you walk around with the spirit of your land. You carry the spirit of where you come from, whether you know it or not. And if you can tap into that and acknowledge that, you'll be like moving throughout the world with this vibrant, like glowing spirit.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to connect with other people through their, love for their land and their place and their heritage as well.
For sure. That's such a beautiful thought. And I think maybe like for the people right now listening, when they never had like a contact with that thought, I think that's maybe something which could be really powerful somehow and really inspiring. And maybe like a connection to that, what you just said. I just feel like, as you mentioned, people from the Pacific, they're like so vibrant. They have like really like, you can feel it, like there's like some kind of like a really, really beautiful aura around those people somehow. You bring like so much joy, but you are like the people like who are like facing such drastic consequences, and in the future literally like looks really, really I don't know how to say it in a correct way, but it just like looks really,
Yeah,
really
it looks really bleak.
really bleak, like literally like so I can imagine like on a personal level it can be super, super, super tough to sometimes keep on going, or like to still like kind of like find a hope. So as your peoples are like so vibrant and so powerful, maybe you can share your personal insight maybe, or like give like an advice for the people when they feel really, really down and they feel like, man, what shall I do? Like everything is looking so bleak. I can imagine that also like sometimes there are moments for you where you are just like, man, this is really, really fucked. So how do you keep on going? Like what is maybe your personal story or your personal insight on that you still find the power to keep on going because you're right now here and you're sharing those stories still like in such a powerful way?
I think that's why solidarity is so important. Showing up for other people, then you start to feel hope inside you. Like I met this young woman from Sweden, I believe. She's a part of an indigenous people that have this incredible reindeer herding culture, and she practices like making traditional fabric and food back in her home in the forest. And I was listening to her story. Her name is Julia. She was just so powerful, and thinking about all the similarities, like, wow, all the way in Sweden, there's a young woman like me that's like facing land grab situations, colonialization, people not respecting her environment, people threatening her livelihood, and yet continues to do what she does. She continues to she continues to care for creation, and just knowing that there's someone out there like gives me so much hope. Also thinking about what has been done so far.
Yeah.
I've seen in March of this year in Marshall Islands, we brought together all the church leaders, and they made a call for the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. From my small island, we have 50,000 people in my island.
Yeah.
And then later on, the World Council of Churches endorses this call. And yesterday, we presented from like over 150 faith-based organizations here at COP and around the world a statement calling for fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty to the presidency of COP. So watching how powerful our voices can move to the world leaders, but also to our communities, also inspires me. All of the people, like all of our ancestors that came before us, they inspire me. And you just really have to have faith. Like, I believe this is the beginning of the end of the fossil fuel era, because there are people out there that care and who are going to work even in their own individual space or in their own like place where they work to make it happen, to make that transition. And if we can all, lift where we stand, then we'll be stronger together.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's really, really inspiring that you have this, still this hope. Like, honestly, like, that's so, so inspiring. I think now, to the next question, you touch upon now like many things because you were talking about the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Sorry if I like say that not in the right way. Like I'm
No,
not
you said
like
it right.
okay, I'm not like so good in English sometimes, and the word is a little bit complicated. I feel. Um, but still, maybe you can like share your perspective on the solutions maybe which should like be in place here, and like in general, like I know it's like a super super big topic and so vague and you can like dive into so many details, but like when we think about like the climate crisis itself, which is interlinked to so many issues, but are there like some key specific things you think which should like change, like where which solutions maybe you also have like for those kind of topics in your mind?
I think I carry, not just my own voice, but my community's voice, and especially the churches that we represent. Like, what a privilege it is for me to be able to stand here on their behalf. And I've seen what they've experienced throughout the Pacific. Young people trying to save their own coastline by cleaning up all of the waste and planting mangroves. And what we want really is just to, like, at a very basic level, is just to live in a way where we think about others and think about creation and reweave how we think about development, where we don't just prioritize money or economic advantage or security. That's something in the Pacific that we are just so tired of, being used as a region as like a military playground to enhance security. It's not what we care about. We care about our environment, and we want people to understand that we don't have to take from the land so much. It's not we're not living in so much scarcity. There's abundance if we learn how to live in harmony with the earth. And because of that, that's why we need to realign ourselves with the 1.5, with limiting the increase of the temperature to 1.5. Every degree is reflected in every centimeter of sea level rise that happens in my home. And every centimeter of salt water reflects every day that we go without water or food security, or that threatens like sanitation, because we don't have water. We need those things to survive. And for many people, it's a matter of giving up a little bit of their comfort.
Yeah.
It's a decision between, okay, are we going to be comfortable? Are we going to be as wealthy or not? But for us, it's life or death. And we are resilient, but we can be resilient together in a better way. That's why we had to phase out fossil fuels, which sounds like a really difficult thing. And being here, I've realized this is a complex issue. But like I said, it's a matter of life or death. We also want the just transition to be done in a way that centers the voices of vulnerable communities, not solving problems by creating more problems. And that's why we continue to watch over nuclear development because of the nuclear waste dumping that's happening in our ocean. And now deep sea mining is being framed as a solution because we need minerals for solar. But we haven't even recycled any of the electronics that we keep throwing away, yet we want to mine the ocean for more. So having a just transition that doesn't cause more problems while trying to tackle the solution is really important. And also centering young people's voices in the discussion is also important. It's our future. We should be able to have a say, have a seat at the table. And I think there are really creative and innovative solutions from the world's young people, and we're learning how to have solidarity with each other. I'm learning every day. So, yeah, those are just some of the things that I would like to see.
Yeah, so beautiful said, and I just can agree so much with you, and it really hope that, yeah, it's just like so aligning with my own values, or like my own, how you say, my wishes. So for the people right now who are listening, who are maybe really connecting to your words, but they live like somewhere far away, that they're not living in the Pacific Islands, but they really want to be in solidarity with you, and they want to do something. Is there maybe like a kind of like a call to action, or some kind of advice you would give those people to like be in solidarity with you and to do something to support your cause? What would you like tell those people right now who are listening?
One really specific area that I find that there's a gap, like we feel like maybe there's not enough people that are advocating in this area, is the issue of nuclear power. We just really need help to learn more about it. We've been seeing the impacts of nuclear waste dumping and uranium mining, and now I see so many people lobbying for nuclear power.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
I'm all for like clean energy. I just hope that it's being done, again, like I said, in a way that is safe and not causing more harm.
Yeah.
Also, deep sea mining. I have a lot of German friends that are, and European friends that are looking into this issue, and really grateful to see the capacity that's being built around it because of this solidarity. And also to reach out to your own governments to talk about loss and damage, what's people that actually need help, not just for economic losses, but that non-economic, intangible loss of that connection to culture. And to talk about phasing out fossil fuels and trying to live the principles as best as you can. And lastly, a really important message is what you've been doing is elevating our voices. I'm really grateful for this space, the way that you've, just listen to my story without like a little quip that is based on what your narrative is or what you want. That's something that comes that happens a lot in these spaces for us, and it's really draining, can be really exhausting and frustrating.
Yeah.
To have people ask you to like use your story to fit their narrative without actually understanding what we want or what our priorities are.
Yeah.
Or, it's just a really formal space where we had to give like a 2-minute intervention, and it's really difficult to share my story like that.
2
So
minutes,
taking the time to listen, try to elevate the voices of vulnerable people, and use your platform to the best of your ability, not a way to like, see the world, but a way to like benefit yourself, but think about how you can support others and give back to others.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, I need to thank you, because literally, like, I'm just here, just asking questions. You're like the one putting all the work in and telling us all those things and your thoughts. So I think right now, the work is on your side, not so much on my side. So thank you so much that you are like.
This is also really important work, sharing the stories.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like, honestly, it's also like such an honor for myself. So I think to slowly like wrap our conversation up, because I have this feeling that we kind of like had like a beautiful walk in our thoughts, and I just feel like I think that we like explored many things. I have like one last question to you, and afterwards you can still share like some thoughts you would like to share. But like the closing question in this podcast is always, and you already like touched upon that, so maybe you will repeat yourself, but still, what gives you hope and what means hope for you in times like these?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Don't cry. What gives me hope is my children.
Yeah.
I mentioned my community, my culture, and my faith, but my
That's fine. Like this is like a safe space, honestly. Like if you feel like crying.
yeah, my family. My family gives me so much hope. I they sacrifice a lot for me to like be away from home. And I just want them to grow up with like a fullness of life, to not have to worry about these things.
Yeah.
To know that if there's a chance to tell the truth, that they don't have to be scared to stand up and speak up. Yeah, that's what gives me hope. And I know that maybe all of these issues won't be solved in our lifetime, but if we show our children what it means to have hope, have faith, to stand for truth, then they will carry on the fight for us.
Thank you so much for sharing that, honestly. And I don't know, I just feel I was really connected to those words, seriously. And I'm sure they will, because you're like a great inspiring example for them. I'm pretty sure that they will just they see you and
Thank
they do
you.
that. All right, Betty. Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing all those words, and I hope that you felt comfortable being in this space. And thank you so much for, I don't know, to open up and be also vulnerable in the space. And as we didn't like know each other before our conversation properly, I was just approaching you yesterday. I'm just really grateful that to have the chance to talk to you, to have this conversation, and that I understand your perspective a little bit better. And I hope that the people right now listening, that they also could connect to you, and that they maybe act up. So from my side, I want to say like a big thank you for your time and your energy and your effort to be here. And I really, really hope that your voices are, I don't know, listen to more, because I'm pretty sure that we should maybe listen more to people like you and not to, I don't know, white old ass man being funded by the lobbyists and by the fossil fuel, literally, because there are so many of them here. So the last words in this podcast are always like the ones from my guest. So if there are like some last thoughts or some ideas which I didn't touch upon and which I didn't ask, but you would like to share, or which you think are important, please feel free to do so. But if you have the feeling that I think we touch upon everything I want to talk about, then we can also close it there. But like from my side, I just want to say a huge thank you. It was an honor to talk to you, and the last words are yours.
Thank you. There's a saying in my island called Kangay Tubar. It talks about the kangay tree, which is a sandalwood tree, and tubar means to like stand strong. And these trees grow in the sand on the shore, so they're like very strong trees. And so in the Marshall Islands, we say kangay tubar, stand strong like the ironwood tree. So thank you, kangay tubar.